Now we are going, we are moving toward Albania, and I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Auron Tare, and he is involved in many projects related to cultural heritage preservation, and he is as well a member of the UNESCO Underwater Heritage Scientific Committee. So you're presenting a paper on a project on an island cultural heritage management. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for the invitation here. I know some of you maybe don't know where Albania is because we're very small. We are in Europe, but before I start telling you about the project that we're doing on the Sazani Island, the only island we have, I've been involved with cultural heritage for many years. This is the UNESCO site of Butrint, which started as a sort of a project of passion and love for me many years ago, and then became a very successful story in my country, one of the best preserved area in Albania, and a very important site in the region, actually. Now they gave me a new job as the director for the coastline of Albania, which is an interesting job, as the British will say, because it's very complicated, it's very challenging, because of the coast of Albania for the last 20 years after the fall of communism has gone through many problems, illegal buildings, unplanned development, etc., etc. So my job is to sort of create some kind of order out of the chaos that we have in the coastline. However, as I sort of, I like to sort of challenge myself, I started to get interested on this island, the only one we have, because one of the reasons is because we don't know anything about it, nothing, as the citizens of the country. Because Sazani Island has been historically a military place, always has been part of the military. And just to give you a bit of idea where it is that little sort of circle, but strategically is extremely important because controls the Straits of Otranto, which is only the sort of the navigation point for the ships to go up to Adriatic, Venice, etc., etc. Because of this important in history, Sazan, and that's I think a better picture. You can see the little island there, but it's only 70 kilometer from Brindisi, sort of the Italian coastline. So because of this importance in history, Sazan has been, from the sort of period that we know of history of Illyria and now what is Albania, has been a very strategic place conquered by the Romans. This is one of the early paintings were found in the Italian museum. As you can see, you see military ships, obviously. I mean, it's a very sort of military. Sometimes when I show my wife my presentation, she said, it's too much military. But in fact, that's what the island is, only part of the military. It was mentioned during the Civil War by Pompey and Caesar, where Pompey had his fleet blocking Caesar's landing in the Albanian coast. Has been part of the Byzantine Empire, has been many hands, has changed. Was base of the operations for the pirates, the Albanian pirates, and there are two very famous pirates. One is called Haji Ali, the other one is Mimar Arnaut, which is believed to be the capture of Cervantes. Maybe that's why he was famous for, because he captured what later on became a famous Spanish writer. But they operated for this island to attack all the ships that's going to Venice or to go to Italy or Ragusa, Republic of Ragusa. Now, this picture here is one of the very early pictures or photographs we have from the World War I, when the Italians captured from the Greeks. They took it, although Albania became an independent republic or country, but Italians took the island of Sazani for strategic reasons, and this is one of the early photographs we have of that period. As you can see, this is another very nice picture because it shows that rapidly after the World War I, Italians expanded their presence there, and finally, with order of Mussolini, Duce, they built the first harbor in the island, and immediately sort of the island, quite populated with navy from the army. These are some of the installations of the army. You can see sort of the first electrical poles, which they are a novelty in Albania because in those days Albania had no electricity, so the island of Sazani was electrified by the Italian army. And you can see some of the other work that the Italians did in the island, barracks, also like entertaining place as well. These are the military installations and guns, a lot of heavy fortified guns that the Italian army put. And after the Italians left, in 1943-44, Albania took the island, but in paper it was still Italian sort of owned till 1947. And then immediately the Soviets, recognizing the importance, the strategic importance, they started heavily investing on military, and in fact, the island became quite famous to the NATO strategic planners in 1959 when Nikita Khrushchev came to Albania and spent 2 weeks around, and 2 days he spent it in Sazani Island because the Russians had brought their submarines, 6 submarines, which was a big submarine fleet in the Mediterranean. So it really scared a lot of NATO planners that the Russians were building this base, and you can see Nikita Khrushchev there posing, and the submarines there in the harbor. And this is part of the Albanian Navy patrolling around Sazani. Sazani became so fortified that this is known in Albania as the Albanian only aircraft carrier, because it was we have no aircraft carriers, but that was the one that we had. But it was such a secret guarded place that nobody that had nothing to do with the island was allowed to go there. It was you needed 3 special sort of approval passes to go there, and checkpoints and things like that. So even now, today, that I'm sort of getting involved with the island, I've started to find more and more fascinating stories. For example, we just found out that apart from the military installation that the Russians did there, in top of one of the hills, the Russians put a secret listening post, which were listening all the NATO ships going across. And then when the Russians came and the Albania started this great relationship with China until 1978, in fact, there were almost 50 to 80 Chinese specialists living in the island in top of this hill, very secretly guarded because they're listening all the NATO traffic and everything else was going on around. So, and I learned that 3 weeks ago through some documents. So that imagine how secret this place was. Now, almost like a year ago, I went to the Prime Minister of Albania, which was my opponent to the basketball team. Usually my team used to win and his team used to lose, but now he's a prime minister. So I told him about other things, and I said, look, Sazani Island has been abandoned now by the army. There's only three soldiers there. They stay and they rotate every week. And I said, would it not be a wonderful idea to open up to the public as a living museum? Because this is the only place where you can really, when I went there myself, I was really fascinated by the whole thing. Because for 15 years, many investors who go to Albania, they all sort of say, oh, Sazani Island maybe is a great idea to do casino, whatever. But in fact, I thought, because of my experience with Butrint, that this can be an amazing sort of magnet for people to go and see, and not only for tourism purpose, but also for studies of marine life around the island, because it's a very, because of the protection by the army, the marine life is fantastic, and everything is sort of preserved, but also the history of the place is so well preserved that you go back in time. You can see, like, the archaeologist's dream is like to find something from the past. Where you go there, you see the beds of the soldiers, even notebooks of the soldiers, even like shoes, whatever, because they sort of left the place, and everything is sort of so much captured in time. And so, sorry for sort of trying to make my point, but anyway, so we decided, okay, we're going to give it a try to see if Sazani will be an interesting place for the visitor. So this is some of the pictures. That's how the Sazani looks like at the moment. It's very abandoned place. And in fact, one of the reasons that I came here is I wanted to listen from other people and get ideas, and see if even also we can invite some people to give us more constructive ideas what to do with this immense island. Is 6 kilometers sort of long, so we worked for 8 months now with the French Conservatoire Littoral to do a management plan of how to look. And I mean, how to do, what to do in the island, and what to do with all these military installations and all the buildings there, and the port, which is built in 1920s but never been touched anymore. So there are some pictures to give you an idea of how the islands are. Like, for example, all are the officers' quarters, where the officers used to live. There were around 3,500 officers, soldiers, and some civilian personnel who lived there in the island. It totally is abandoned now, including a hospital, which you see in the right, and the building in the left there was the Italian command center in the Second World War II, First and Second World War II. So all this great sort of culture heritage that the island has is combined with a lot of biodiversity, because the island is, as I said, so protected. So many indigenous plants have been living there and continue to flourish, untouched by human. And then we've been, working a bit with some French experts to do a catalog, because nobody knows anything what is in the island, and we're surprised to find turtles, for example. We've been looking for a year to find turtles, and finally we found them because we thought they didn't live there. So we did a bit of a cataloging of the flora and fauna and the birds, which are quite remarkable, the concentration of the birds. And in sometime I say that because many of the eagles are disturbed in the mainland, so they all decided to come and live in Sazani, because you see a lot of eagles in the island. So through this idea or management plan that we wrote with the French, now we are creating a sort of a visitor concept. I mean, our idea is to come and see Sazani as a living museum, as a museum that go back to time. It's like an allegory for Albania, that it was such a beautiful place, but surrounded with barbed wire, and with this feeling that the world was going to be attack the country during the communism period, and just waiting and waiting, but nobody came to attack. That's how it feels when you go to visit the island. So based in that sort of idea, we are inviting this specialist to give us some thoughts and some advice, and we are sort of, as you can see, we're working there with the French architect, which is an amazing drawer as well. And we came up with concrete ideas. Of course, there are ideas. We like to put them in practice, but we want to build there, or not build, but just restore, because the buildings are so many there, but just restore the buildings, and to do like a museum, not necessarily a museum per se, but also the life of the soldiers and the life of how the military lived there, as well as connecting to the ocean, because everything that Sazan is about is also related to the ocean and all the history that the island had. So these are some of the drawings that we've been putting up, even the visitor management, because we anticipated that at least all the Albanians who have seen the island sort of from the mainland and never been allowed to go, now they would really like to go. So we also worked ideas for the visitors, how to come. We like to also use the tickets as almost like those communist passes. So when you come in, you have to be stamped. And we're just sort of producing interesting ideas, but everything related to the army. So very quickly, these are some of the drawings and some of the ideas that we've been putting in paper. And I'll be quick. These are the parties, because I don't know if some of you may know the communist system, but every sort of military area had to have the party headquarters, and that's part of the party headquarters, and the cinema, which are being totally abandoned and totally derelict, but we like to find uses for them instead of leaving them like that. And this, to my surprise, I discovered that the island has also a school. So the families of the officers had their children grown up in the island. And we had a school, which we like to turn the school to a place of flora and fauna. So you can walk around and sort of get a lecture on the biodiversity on the area. There are some wonderful Italian paved pathways, which we like to continue the same concept and use them, use them as the Italians did. And this is the sort of faraway military headquarters, just to give you sort of an idea of the extent of the buildings around the island. Very quickly. And now, it's been just less than a year that we sort of decided, we took this decision to open up the Sazan Island, and even in a political term, even the opposition who criticized everything did not criticize this move, because obviously it was so much in favor with the local people who finally can make it to Sazan, although there is not a ferry service, there is nothing in sense of organization to do the trip. Still, to our surprise, there were over 8,000 visitors a month, from the moment that we opened up the island. And I had to sort of stay there myself. I got my kids and put a camp just to stay to see how things will go the moment we open it. And we started right away with the visit of a group of travel agents, and it's called ATTA, which is the Adventure Travel Association. They have members all over the world, so we invited them to come and see the island and see if they can sort of put it in their programs on the adventure and culture tourism. So that's the first. Those kind of the first civilians which were allowed in the island, and that's our sort of trek around. And we had immediately some very, very nice articles about the Sazan. And I think that's me showing a nuclear tunnels. There are several nuclear tunnels, and we're joking, but we're saying that we like to make them like a wine cellar. But they're amazing to see how much work has been done to open up those. That's the military headquarters, and in fact, in the corner there, it still has the fascio symbol, which we're very surprised, knowing that the communist period must have removed all the fascist symbol, but in fact it's still preserved there. So in July, we sort of took the decision to open the island. It was a very interesting battle between the sort of civilian part of the government and the military, because the military still wants to control, and I think I was very much in favor of that, because the military will keep the status of the island, protection from the developers, from anybody who wants to come and build hotels and casinos and McDonald's, whatever. but keep it. I mean, we like to keep it really, really simple and beautiful as it is. So that's the submarines there that we like to sort of bring them to the island back and sort of show them and install. This is my office in the island. Is a military tent, but that's where we operate from. And so this is the first tourist boat in the island, which was a big media buzz because finally the first tourist, I mean local tourists, have arrived. So that was a great sort of day. And then the first thing we did, and I kind of know now in my country that I'm the sort of Mr. Cleaning the beach, because since I took the job, I got the army out in the beaches and we start cleaning the whole beaches for months. So the Sazani, the first thing we did is cleaning the island because it was quite dirty with a lot of things that were left behind, but also from the ocean who brings garbage around. So we did a big cleaning day. And we got some interesting visitors. One of them was Hubert Védrine, the former French foreign minister, a very important sort of voice in the eco-culture world now that he came to visit us. He saw a program on French TV, that's why he was interested to come and see. So these are some of the pictures of how the island looks, and the media. The moment we opened up the island, there was a huge media, international media. All over the world, there was this articles coming up about the opening up the last remaining sort of secret place in the Mediterranean. So a lot of media was around. And one of the things that we like to do in the island, and we've been started actually on a sort of different capacity, is like building like a center of excellency, or a center of marine studies, that we can have universities, we can have summer schools to come and study a number of aspects that the island has. And this is a project that I've been doing for several years with an American friend of mine who has dedicated himself to finding shipwrecks. And so he spent most of his time now in his ship, coming around finding shipwrecks. And we found, around Sazani, we found two. At the moment, we found two shipwrecks. One is from the Republican era, so we like to believe that maybe part of one of the ships from Pompey or Caesar, who was bringing olive oil or wine to his soldiers. And we also found an amazing 4th, 5th century AD shipwreck carrying amphoras from Palestine. So this is a short a bit of clip just for you to understand the wealth of the underwater around the island. It's 28-meter long ship carrying a lot of amphoras. We've been doing this project for 9 years now. We've been scanning the whole Albanian coastline from the south to Vlora, almost to Sazani Island now. And this year we scanned the Sazani Island. Actually, we found something very interesting, which I'll share it to you in a second. But this is the footage of the 4th century shipwreck. I'll go quick. We have fantastic images. We've done some study around the shipwrecks to understand where it's coming from, what is carrying, and so on. And as we are scanning the surrounding part of the island, I personally am sort of very interested on the World War I, World War II history. And as we're scanning the island, there are a lot of history connected to the Italian front during the World War I and World War II. And one of the mysteries that surround that period is the loss of a couple of very important Italian ships which were bringing troops to the Eastern Front. Now, this is a picture of the Vlora Bay, where the Sazani is located, and in the far end, you kind of see the island. This is World War I Italians, as you can see, having everything there, I think for the show. They're sort of displaying their power. But you have submarines, boats, and airplanes as well. Now, I'll be very quick because this is a long lecture, but this is very quick just to give you an idea what we're finding there. The Austrian-Hungarians were operating their submarine base from Kotor in Montenegro. Very important because they're trying to hit all the Allies' convoys, especially the Italians and French bringing troops to the Eastern Front. So the Austrian-Hungarians are operating their submarines there. And actually, as you do the research, you find more and more things. And two of the most important or most famous of the commanders were Admiral Canaris, which was a young officer in those days. He used to operate around Sazan. And another gentleman called Von Trapp, which maybe you've seen the movie Sound of Music. He was a famous submarine commander, and he was also operating in this part of the world. So these are all the submarines, sorry, that we find that have been operating in our waters, Austrian-Hungarians. And, so this is the Bay of Vlora, where these actions were happening, and I'll be quick, just so these are all the submarines that we've been located. And there is quite a well-known submarine, SMU-16, who disappeared after attacking the Italian convoy, bringing the troops to Vlora for the Eastern Front. So this is our scientific ship Hercules, which is doing the multi-beam search. And this is, very quickly, just to give you an idea of the research. We scanned the whole area there. We found these two anomalies that didn't make any sense why they're there. So looking at the archives, we suspected that maybe we've been located. Two of the missing ships, one submarine, SMU-16, and one very famous ship, Principe Umberto, who was lost with over 2,500 men on board. Now, this is we found this 2 months ago, so it's not been seen yet. We did not sort of made it public yet, so I thought I can bring it here as a nice little novelty. We found a big mound of sand, and we suspect 90% we are sure that we found the SMU-16 buried under the sand, and we are trying now to locate the little pieces to identify the submarine. The submarine was sunk with 17 people on board. 2 of them survived. The rest were inside when went down. And this is a bit of footage. We sent all the images to a couple of naval experts in England and in Germany, and they think that we are on the right track, that they think that what we're looking at, it looks like a submarine. Of course, now we have to bring something up. But because it's a war grave, by international conventions, you are not allowed to touch the site. So we have to identify it through different ways. And so this is the multi-beam that we had the images before we decided to go and look at the site. The big one, the big circle, we think that is either a destroyer called Nembo, which SMU-16 hit. I'll go quick. This is the only picture we have of SMU-16. So this is, very quickly, that's the guys who were there. So, okay, this is a tower that we're using for identification. So that big circle there is either Nimbo, that has been sunk with 37 loss of life by SMU-16, or we think that might be, and that's the commander of the Von Zoppa, the commander of the submarine, or we think that is Principe Umberto. Now, Principe Umberto has been considered to be one of the greatest loss of the Italian Navy. It was on the way from Vlora to, you see, as a transoceanic ship, a big one, was commissioned by the Italian Navy for carrying the troops, famous for rescuing the Serbian army during the retreat from the Austrian-Hungarians when they attacked Belgrade. And so U-5, the submarine U-5 hit Principe Umberto right on the Bay of Vlora, but nobody's ever found it. And there were 2,445 people died in that tragedy, and they went down extremely fast. That's why very few survivors were left. And so far, nobody has located it, although they had some indication, but nobody has located it. So we think that during this scanning that we might discover as well the Principe Umberto. And these are some of the pictures we found on the Italian Museum of War, directly done directly as they're coming to Albania. This is a group of the soldiers which were on board Principe Umberto. And we also found the menu. Look how interesting, the menu, what they're serving on board. And we don't understand why they have the sort of the Chinese ladies on the menu, which is a military ship. But anyway, that's maybe the photographer who took the pictures that we have discovered. So this is, I sort of decided to bring this as well as part of the Sazani thing, because it just shows you a bit of the wealth of the heritage that is around. This is the cemetery of the Italian soldiers in Vlora. Just gives you a bit of the idea of the heritage of surrounding Sazani and how much is there, and why we sort of like to, apart from preserving the site and making like an open museum, but we also like to do the research on the water and bring that thing for people to, you know, enjoy it and look at it and also learn about history. Because as Albanians, we are a mountain people. We're not very much, and when I see all these marine museums around talking, but we're very mountain people. We kind of been scared of the water for a long time. So we just started now to have some relationship with the water. So without, you know, making it too long, thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm open for any questions or any things you have.